Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special Rob Loves Arguing Basketball, a bonus episode this week. I'll see what the reaction is to this, if I'm going to continue doing it. But this is very specifically for Hoops Heads. If you're not, if you're tangentially into basketball, this might be a good way for you to learn more. If you're not into basketball at all, just wait till the next week. Don't listen to this.
Well, I would slightly argue this too, though.
Okay.
A lot of people watch. Now they're not on TNT anymore; they're on ESPN or whatever. But Chuck, Shaq, Ernie, and Kenny clips. They watch them. They watch that. They don't
Even
watch
without
basketball.
watching basketball at all.
Absolutely, because there's a soccer version too with Thierry Henry and Jamie whatever. And I don't watch soccer at all.
Jamie whatever.
Yeah,
guy.
Kerrigan or something like that. Whatever, some
Wayne
Liverpool
Rooney. Is he
guy.
in there?
They talk about him though.
Sure,
no,
yeah,
but
okay.
yeah, they're all former. It's the TNT version of
yeah,
for
I
soccer.
hear you. Yeah.
For Premier League.
Yeah.
They're all former soccer players. Thierry Henry was like a big France player or whatever, and then they got a girl, but they're all funny.
Yeah.
I don't watch a fucking lick of soccer, but I watch clips of them.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
So this might.
maybe this will be the gateway.
Yeah.
Well, this was a great time to start because we had the NBA draft this week, as well as I guess we'll call it one major trade with one sort of just slightly under that. If we were to rate out of 10, what is your basketball knowledge? Would you say, Sanker?
I guess it depends on how you describe it. I was a big basketball fan for a while, and then I just kind of fell off. So in terms of understanding the sport, pretty good. Any normal guy who's like, I'm a basketball fan, I just don't know the names as much anymore.
I was going to say, how many names could you possibly get out? Are you familiar with a LaMelo Ball?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that due to his father being a public spectacle, or based on his game?
I guess. The only reason I'll say yes and no. Yes, because I don't know if I would have known him without it, but then I know I can't pronounce all the names. There's a lot more Africans now, so
sure.
OG.
Well, we're going to discuss Giannis Antetokounmpo
and Giannis.
Yeah.
But I know the names, and obviously the Raptors winning season. I was watching.
Sure.
I was kind of even getting into it the year before, so it was like good timing for me. But yeah, no, I know a bunch of the names, but let's say 20.
Okay, that's not a bad amount. Maybe we'll test you at the end of the episode to see how many you can say. But and I'll give you the benefit of how many I'm going to name during the course of the episode. Yeah. So before the NBA draft, there was the trade that everybody. I mean, it became one of these things where we were just like, I'm kind of done. I just want Giannis traded. As a Raptors fan, I was very well aware at this point it was not going to be to us.
Yeah.
The Masai Ujiri Africa thing had already been broken up. Masai's in Dallas now. He's not there. The only reason we ever really thought we'd get Giannis is just because
of Masai.
And Masai, and we should have, by the way. I forget what the story was exactly, but Masai, saved him from having to live in poverty.
Yeah. But wasn't he also one of those basketball players that was a fan of Toronto in some way?
It's possible, and this happens almost. I think people don't realize how much it happens in baseball here. If you meet a Dominican guy, if an old Dominican guy, even if he lives in New York City, he usually will own a Blue Jays hat.
Right.
Because they were the first team to bring a lot of Dominicans over.
I love Roberto Alomar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably even further back than that. But they tend to, Dominican fellas tend to have a thing for the Blue Jays. You can get that. And obviously every Canadian kid is going to be a Raptors fan. We have an entire country on the side, which is pretty rare. But Giannis, it's one of those things where you're like, well, he didn't come here when the guy who provided the lifeboat that he floated the grease on. I mean, literally, I think Masai picked up a young Giannis and used his other arm to swim to Greece with him or whatever, and he still just wouldn't come. So, like, we never were going to get Giannis. And so here's what you got to understand. Giannis is not what you'd conventionally call, like, too old, whatever, but he is. You have to understand with big guys that in the NBA, there's a shelf life.
Yeah.
Like, you carry around a little bit more weight than maybe you should be.
Yeah.
Right?
1-2 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that affects your knees, your whatever. There's a drag that comes. I'm too heavy right now for what I usually like to be at. There's a drag that
comes on the
with
bones
that, right?
and the muscles and the fibers and all that kind of stuff.
So Giannis has started to have things. I think he's a bad bet. I wouldn't have traded for Giannis. Like what it required in my head, or in hypothetical, and in most people's head to get Giannis, I don't think the cost ultimately was worth it. For the Heat, the Miami Heat once again go in and snag a star. I don't get what all these people are into fucking. I mean, I guess if I was Giannis, I'd want to go live in Miami because, like, you're rich enough.
Yeah.
You whatever, you don't care. But what is this fucking Miami
You don't
obsession?
understand the Miami thing?
I hate Miami. I think Miami fucking stinks. It's fucking humid.
Yeah.
It's all spread out. Like, it's not, like, I don't know. I just don't think Miami's that great. I'd rather live in fucking Nashville than Miami.
I haven't. That's probably the whitest thing you've ever said, but Nashville.
Yeah, I'm also just not into big booty ethnic girls, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as much my scene. I don't drive a BMW and I don't like BBLs.
Yeah. I don't remember as much. I've been to Miami, I think, once, but I was like a middle teen or whatever, and I just didn't pay attention that much. So I just know I love parts of Florida. So I feel like I kind of get it.
But Miami's nothing like the rest of Florida.
Right, that's what I heard.
Like, the charm of Florida is entirely lost in Miami. It's just New York City without a subway system.
Right.
It's New York City, but if you're poor in any way, you just have to kill yourself. Like, I've always said that an attractive girl in America has three choices. If she's in the arts and she's truly talented, you move to New York City.
Sure.
If you're in the arts and you're hotter than you are talented, but you got a little bit of talent, you go to LA.
LA, yeah.
If you're hot and have literally nothing to offer the world in any way whatsoever, Miami. Like, you marry a BMW and you fucking live your life. Like, that's the Miami existence or whatever. So I guess I just have a faith that at a certain point you become rich and cool enough that type of pussy doesn't interest you anymore. Like, I guess I have this, like, idealistic fantasy where there'd be more to it than that at a certain point.
That's dependent on,
your individual.
Your individual maturity or whatever. Some athletes, till their fucking last game, they were fucking dumb girls.
Yeah, it's just craziness. Like, Zion Williamson has ruined an entire career over fucking po' boys and prostitutes.
Yeah, I thought you were going to leave out the food part.
It's both. Yeah. It's fucking both is the problem. There's no lifestyle there. Yeah. He fucks OnlyFans girls who only want to fuck the guy because he's an athlete not because they're like, look at the body on this athlete. And then he gets sad because they don't actually love him and he eats fucking shrimp on bread. He eats breaded shrimp.
They're good
on bread.
They're good. You have to
but
admit,
it's breaded shrimp. You don't need to add breaded shrimp to a fucking sandwich already. Have one or the other.
It's good though.
By the way, peeled shrimp with sauce and stuff would be a perfectly good sandwich. But for some reason, they need to make breaded shrimp a sandwich. Anyways, so that's ruined his big fat fucking career. And so Giannis gets traded to Miami this week for Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Kasper Yakashunas, and Tyler Hero as well, some draft picks. There's two ways you trade a superstar. You either do slight downgrade on the superstar plus some goodies, or you do bucket of bullshit and picks. Like that's kind of the only two ways. And
heading into rebuild years.
And this was a classic situation. So you had two teams that Giannis was willing to sign with. You had the Boston Celtics and you had Miami. couldn't be more different places. Doesn't indicate any way whatsoever what Giannis's desire. What were your desires? What was it? Because Miami's, you would think now, not understanding basketball great, Boston, the desire when you look at Boston
Franchise
would be,
history.
and you're close to a championship. I mean, there's a chance you get another ring next year if you go to Boston, get paired up with Tatum. Very good franchise, run very well. And the deal there would have been Jaylen Brown plus picks, which I can't even believe they needed plus picks. I would have taken Jaylen Brown straight up. But just because he's a younger, healthier, on a longer contract player that you could have flipped. Now Jaylen Brown, they're talking about how they're trying to trade Jaylen Brown. So Miami ends up getting Giannis. Boston doesn't get Giannis. Now they're stuck with having Jaylen Brown, who is a superstar who led them to the second place finish in the East last year while Jason Tatum was hurt for most of the season, dragged this team that nobody had any expectations to coming to a first round exit. But with Jason Tatum, like Jaylen Brown, it wasn't his fault. I can tell you that much. And now he's sitting here going, I led this team last year, and now you're trying to trade me for a Greek guy with bad fucking knees. Mm-hmm. So I want out. I could be my own guy. I'm not going to play second fiddle to this fucking guy anymore who tore his ACL, had to sit out all last year until like March. And then I led the thing, and now you're trying to trade me for fucking Giannis, who was also injured? Fuck you. Fuck all this. And I get it. And it is an underrated thing in sports, man. That is very hard to come back from. It is a lot like if you were like an anti-vaxxer in your family, right? And you couldn't come to Christmas for 2 years because you didn't get the vaccine. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic's over, and now no one's fucking asking you if you have the vaccine or not, right? Like, that's sort of probably what Jaylen Brown feels a little bit like when it comes to the Boston Celtics currently. So Milwaukee's fucked, right? Like, they've done everything they could to try to save this Giannis situation for like the last 3 years. And that's what happens to franchises. And by the way, they did what they should. It's very rare you come across having a superstar. Like, you don't get, this is once in a lifetime, once in a generation situation to have a superstar like Giannis on your team. You have to just expend all your resources to do everything you can to make that team good. They did the right thing. But a lot of times at the end of that, you end up kind of fucked. You've traded all your draft picks. You swapped all the ones you can't trade. You have nothing left in the coffers. I mean, they won a championship with Jrue Holiday. Then they decided they needed to do more, so they traded Jrue Holiday to get in Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard gets hurt. They decide if they want to keep Giannis, they can't be eating $50 million of Dame Lillard's contract, so they waive and stretch his contract, which means they have to pay him $22 million for like the next 4 seasons to not play for them. And that hurts. It's not the money, it's the cap situation. $22 million if you're like $130-something-ish million cap is now gone to a guy who doesn't play for you. So that's rough. You're trying to keep your superstar. You're doing all these fucking bad contracts. Miles Turner, overpay at center. I get it. Everything about Miles Turner is wonderful hypothetically, but if the Raptors end up trading a first-round draft pick to try to get fucking Miles Turner in the house the offseason, I'll be very upset. Miles Turner is not worth the fucking squeeze. They do all these things to keep Giannis. Ultimately, they're fruitless. They have to trade Giannis. So they could either trade him to Boston and get the Jaylen Brown quasi superstar with a couple draft picks, or they can trade him to Miami for the bucket of potential, and we'll see what happens. They choose that one. Now, that's the smart decision, because if you're the GM, say you're running the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Well, you like your job, probably. You've probably worked most of your life to get yourself in a position where you can be the general manager of a basketball team. Sure. That's a pretty hard, there's 30 jobs in the entire world for that specific thing. So you're going to do what you can to not get fired for whatever is about to happen when you trade this generational superstar, right? So you're not going to trade him for the dude who now you just have and you're still middling and nothing really got better, and now that guy's probably not happy because you still suck and whatever. You're going to trade it for 3 years of, well, we had to trade Giannis and we'll see how these guys turn out. It kind of buys you a little job security for a little while, right? Like, hey, Kalel wears 21 and Yakashunas is this old and Yakas is 24 and the draft picks are coming. We get Miami's pick in 2032. What about 2032? So, you get all these things. Now, for Miami, I don't get it at all. It doesn't make, I get that, maybe he's going to sell jerseys, but, past that, it's a little bit of excitement, but you've given up way too much of your team. They now, all these people who think they can re-sign Norman Powell, they cannot re-sign Norman Powell. I've seen the amount of times I've seen people listing Norman Powell in their starting five. There's a salary cap, guys, and what happened is that they overstretched their ability to re-sign Norman Powell, who did not come with full bird rights. So they can't just sign Norman Powell to whatever contract they want. Bird rights is named after Larry Bird. The idea of bird rights is that there are certain players, when they become free agency, the team that drafted them or had them for a number of years before that can re-sign them for over the cap. And it's as a way to try to not let everyone just lose all their best players if they fucked up. So they don't have Norman Powell's bird rights. So right now, the fucking Miami Heat are Bam Adebayo and Giannis Antetokounmpo at center and power forward. Great. That's about as good a center and power forward as there is in the entire rest of the league. And then they're nothing. They're Andrew Wiggins, who somehow God bless Maple Jordan. He was Canada's first chance at a superstar basketball player. Yeah. Steve Nash was, but he was the first Canadian to go first overall in the NBA draft. He comes out, he's overrated. He should not have been a first pick. And if he was, it was because the draft wasn't particularly good. I'd have to go back and relook at that draft to see who the number one overall pick should have been. However, it's probably not Andrew Wiggins, right? He's a disappointment for a while, and then he has his career resurgence in Golden State at some point where people realize, hey, maybe he's not the guy we all thought he was, but he's actually a pretty useful basketball player ultimately, right? He plays defense hard. He can get you some baskets. He's kind of a big body for his position. Whatever. And so there's a career renaissance for Andrew Wiggins at some point. We've now reached the he's overrated stage once again. The career renaissance has come, but now we think he's this great version of this 3-and-D guy that you have to have on a winning team, and he's not. He overplayed what we thought he was at a period of time. He's still been compensated way too well for what it is he does. He's about to pick up his $30 million player option because there's no way he's turning that down. And Miami's going to be stuck with Bam at $40 million a year, Giannis at $50-something million a year, and Wiggins at $30 million a year, and have no money left for anything else at all. They're going to be bandaging this fucking team together. Maybe they can trade Wiggins and get something. I don't know. The Lakers seem to like him. Maybe there's a move for LeBron even. But I don't even care if you give this team LeBron. LeBron and Giannis and fucking Bam still need guards. And if there's anything we learned in this NBA with Jalen Brunson, if you look at Oklahoma City in this draft, just took another guard. Oklahoma City, I wrote out today everybody's depth chart. I went through after now that the draft was done and a couple re-signings and trades happened. I went through all the teams and wrote out their depth chart, basically top 10. And when I got to Oklahoma City, you can't write a top 10. You literally have to write all 15 of their players because they're so deep. It's just whatever. And their point guard position is SGA, the MVP of the league. Then in whatever order you would like, there's Cason Wallace, who you could put at shooting guard if you want, but ultimately most teams in the league would love to have him as a point guard. There is AJ Mitchell. There's prospect, who knows what he'll end up being, Nikolai Topic. There is, who did they just draft? They got Mara as the big, but then they just also drafted not Okuri because they traded him. They got some other kid. Sturts. They got Bennett Sturts out of Iowa. Pure point guard. Pick and roll machine point guard out of Iowa. They're 6 point guards deep now, all of a sudden. And Miami's philosophy is, we're just going to not have any. We'll see how that goes. You have Davion Mitchell off day, who I love, for briefly former Raptor, really cool, defensive specialist point guard. But other than that, they got Pelly Larson, and they got no guards whatsoever, and they have no money to sign any of them. Mm-hmm. They can maybe sign and trade Norman Powell, where I think they could probably take back. I think if they took back like $13 million, which is a fine player, they can also use their mid-level exemption and get another $13 million player. So like, there's some things they can do, but ultimately they have like painted themselves into a corner where Giannis is not winning a championship for easily 2 more years, and I don't think his knees hold up that long. So they've done nothing. Milwaukee went and got a bunch of draft picks and players. Jaime Jaquez, who is a good role guy, I think he's overrated due to his being in Miami. We've seen nothing out of Yakashunez. I like Khalil Ware. He was somebody that I would have targeted for the Raptors this offseason if possible. And they've got a bunch of shitty draft picks. They've wasted the 13th pick on Nate Ament, who if you like basketball people I trust across the board, said this kid ain't anything. Like, if this kid is even in the NBA in a few years, he'll be lucky.
Yeah.
It's just he's a body and nothing else. There's nothing. He's shown nothing in college to go, oh, there's a guy. Sometimes this does happen. Like, there are players that, I mean, Giannis in himself. Giannis dominated the Greek league, and nobody really knew what to make of it. Even Bill Simmons, the god of basketball, kind of was like, I don't know. I saw him playing against fucking children and weird Greek men. Like, I don't know. I don't know what this is. Right? So, like, sometimes there's that, and they go, oh, but look at the fucking measurables on these guys. NBA basketball players are treated exactly like slaves now. Like, if you saw a white NBA owner like checking the gums of their first round draft pick to see if they were healthy, you would be like, whatever. There's something, since Kawhi Leonard, they now always list a player's wingspan, right? Like,
yeah.
And so, like, there's, your wingspan is supposed to be the same as your height.
Yeah.
Right. So, but now they'll call it like +5 wingspan. So if your wingspan is like 5 inches longer than your height, they'll go, he has a +5 wingspan or whatever. They really like get down into all this stuff. So you just have like a crazy wingspan. Like, there's like an NBA team that might just take you because they're like, you can dribble. He can dribble a fucking basketball and his arms are 8 feet long. So, so Milwaukee has none of its own draft picks. Could have tried to make a trade with Portland. And this is the other thing that these franchises do, is their loyalty to superstars is crazy. Like, so the Portland Trailblazers were willing to make a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks, but Giannis was not willing to re-sign in Portland. He didn't want to play in Portland. He didn't seem to want to play in the West at all. Portland was A-okay with that. They were still apparently willing to make the trade and just suffer the consequences of maybe we only pull a Raptors with Kawhi, where we trade for a guy that we have no reassurances that is going to be there longer. But hey, we won the 2019 championship. Right. Who cares ultimately? And by the way, I would like to say half the reason I want to do this podcast is just to have proper, intelligent Toronto Raptors representation on a podcast, because Bill Simmons and The Ringer refuses to cover us in any way whatsoever in an intelligent fashion. It is crazy. If you look at Toronto Raptors and where they rank in The Ringer's top 100 while they play for the Raptors, and then see where they end up if they get traded, like, OG Anunoby is listed as like the 17th best player in the NBA now.
Yeah.
And like, there's not a chance that while he played for the Raptors, he ever crossed 50. I mean, I would be shocked if he was in the top 50.
Yeah.
Like, they just always, Pascal, same thing. He was like a 40. He would be in like the 40s, and now the guy's consistently in the 20s of the top players. They just don't like us.
Yeah, there's this YouTube channel that I was watching for a bit. He focused a lot on historical breakdowns of basketball moments, but he would once in a while do a video on like current stuff that's going on. And he's American, and he did a whole video on, it's insane how little covered and paid attention to the Toronto Raptors are.
And specifically the 2019 Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
That's a great basketball team. Like, they were talking about of like the last 10 or last 8 probably champions, like who would win out if you took all those teams and put them up against each other and whatever. Like, that Raptors team would do so much better than anyone wants to give it credit for. Marc Gasol, Hall of Famer. Serge Ibaka, borderline Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Pascal Siakam might be a Hall of Famer by the time it's all said and done. Kawhi Leonard, first ballot Hall of Famer. You got Danny Green, unbelievable role player, works in NBA media now because he's just known to he was an intelligent, great player who won championships in multiple I think he won championships with 3 different teams.
I think so.
He won with the Lakers, the Raptors, and the Spurs. You had Fred VanVleet on the bench. You had OG injured that entire playoff run. You had Fred VanVleet. You had the greatest Raptor of all time, my nearly birthday mate, Kyle Lowry, who has the juiciest butt and the best charges in all the history of basketball. He's who made me understand why James Harden is so worthless and what made me hate a generation of basketball players who grew up like James Harden. Because there became this thing about falling down when you took a 3. You take a 3 and you fall on your little butt because maybe you'll get a call. Right?
And one, yeah.
But the problem is that, do you know what you're really bad at when you fall on your little bum all the time? Defense. You're terrible at fucking defense. Right. And the amount of points these guys were giving up playing stupid James Harden basketball, like, it's incredible to me when I look at, like, I'm not trying to be whatever, but, like, listen, I'm going to try to do this podcast, and we'll, like, if this doesn't kill you, or if I can do this on my own so you don't have to suffer through this every week, like, I will continue to do a basketball podcast, and you will literally sit there and go, Rob could run 6 of these franchises better than they're currently being run. There's not a chance in the world that if I ran the New Orleans Pelicans for the last 10 years, that I don't have a more positive outcome than who has run it. And I'm not talking owners. I'm talking GMs, like coaches, whatever. Not coaches. I don't know how to run a Spanish pick and roll. Like, I don't actually know the X's and O's that well.
GM is the position. GM is the position.
GM is the position. And, like, and by the way, I say I don't know what a Spanish pick and roll is, but I actually do. You know what I mean? I couldn't sit there and draw up a Spanish pick and roll for you, but I understand if you're a Toronto Raptors fan, stop being so negative about Jakob Poeltl all the goddamn time. There's a reason his on-off numbers are good, and that's because we forget that a big part of basketball was having a big, giant ogre stand 18 feet away from the basketball with the ball in his hand and being pretty good at getting that ball into the hand of a smaller gentleman who runs faster and can use his big giant body as a screen and get to the basket. Jakob Poeltl is a top 5 in the league screener. Like, and so does he rebound at the rate we might like? No. Does he score at the rate we might like? No. He barely dunks. He does a very interesting push shot, which, by the way, I kind of like. And I think in this NBA, the push shot is something you're going to see. I think you would have saw if everyone wants Victor Wembanyama to work on a sky hook. Work on a push shot. If Victor actually gets the same Jakob Poeltl push shot down, that's when he becomes unstoppable. That's when the New York Knicks have no shot against him. He needs to figure out how to get in the paint at that range and do what Poeltl does. But anyways, so yeah, no, I care about basketball on a very deep level. And like, I think about it far too much, which is why I like to do this podcast. There are things that people I watch all day, the low IQ of basketball fans, and then you see, like, this draft was actually incredible. I got the first 7 picks of this draft correct. Like, I guessed everyone, and then the 8th pick I got off. I could pick the first 8 picks of this draft correctly. It was the 9th pick I guessed wrong, but I guessed the college the guy would draft the player from. And it was just the wrong player from Michigan that I had ultimately, because the rumors were Dallas was trying to trade Daniel Gafford, who is a center. And so my assumption was that they were working to get themselves Adam Mara, the 7'3" center out of Michigan. Instead, they took Miraz Johnson, the forward, who's a bit of like a plug him anywhere sort of defensive specialist guy, a less body Lou Dort type of situation. And you know why? Not because I'm like a genius on this, because everyone kind of just did what they were supposed to. this NBA draft. Last NBA draft was fucking amazing. The fucking Brooklyn Nets had 5 picks and everyone more retarded than the last. Like, it was such a fun, you just had this one team that showed up to the draft and they were like, you know what, we're going to shock everybody by doing the wrong thing in every moment possible in his entire draft. It was crazy. And like, they had 5 first round draft picks and maybe none of them are going to turn out to be like quality NBA players in the end. Igor Denham might have a career ultimately. Danny Wolf possibly. A Kelly Olynyk. And by the way, Kelly Olynyk, if you ever see this, I love you. I could tell you very specifically, I used to go to Raptors games and go, I love watching Kelly Olynyk screen. I loved the way he played basketball. He was like a beautiful pickup player, whatever. And I love the time he was on the Raptors. Anyways, enough explaining my love of basketball. So the Giannis trade, kind of a rare superstar lose-lose trade. Usually when a superstar gets traded, one team wins and the other team kind of has to hold their nose and deal with whatever. Or what I think was good, Milwaukee may end up winning this trade, but not really. Because what will happen is Giannis is going to get hurt and miss a bunch of the season, and Miami's never really going to go anywhere. And so people will go, oh, well, Milwaukee inevitably won that trade. But that's revisionist history because you can look back and go, well, they could have had Jaylen Brown, who then they could have traded for even more stuff than they could have with Giannis. Right. Like, they ultimately made a stupid decision because I can tell you right now as a Raptors fan, I would give up more for Jaylen Brown than I would for Giannis because I have way more faith in Jaylen Brown being an effective basketball player for the next 3 to 5 years than I do Giannis Antetokounmpo. So anyway, so that was that trade. I mean, Kel'el Ware, maybe whatever. Tyler Hero's not even going to end up. Milwaukee goes on to draft Brandon Burries like they should. A good pick, number 10, Brandon Burries, who's going to make Tyler Hero redundant. The only reason they might keep Tyler Hero for a bit is because he's from Wisconsin. And so they're going to try to play well, he's from the hometown, right? But they should get him the fuck out of town too. Send him to Detroit. Get another fucking draft pick out of it. Get another young piece. Try to get Ron Holland or some shit. Something that you can like point to and go, hey, another young guy in the basket. Like, Ron Holland's worth a shot. I think Detroit traded Isaiah Stewart because they thought that Ron Holland might be able to replace them. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what Detroit's doing. Another team that made a trade, and then I'll get into the draft. LaMelo Ball is one of the more controversial players in the league. If you are like a 15-year-old boy who likes to hoop on the playground, you love LaMelo Ball. You think he's like the coolest thing that's ever happened to basketball. If you're like the old black guy at the basketball court who likes to like grind it down and whatever, you think LaMelo Ball is the dumbest fucking thing and a complete waste of time. And he's very polarizing, and even like basketball heads, the analytics is even very confusing of it. It could be very positive. He's particularly big for a point guard, so there should be defense there. If he decides to actually lock in, the Charlotte Hornets were everybody's like B team last year. Like, they were everybody's favorite. They're not my team, but they're very fun to watch team. And so they've decided to get ahead of it. This is a franchise understanding things. They went, hey, this guy sells jerseys. He puts people in the fucking stadium, but ultimately he's going to cost us too much money. And we have got Con Knipple, who is the real franchise player on our roster. We have Brandon Miller, who is a great sidekick to that guy. And we need to not be bogged down by this LaMelo Ball bullshit. And instead of holding on to him too long and letting everybody figure out, like Trae Young last year got traded because they got nothing for him because finally the league had figured out like Trae Young's bullshit. He's fucking flash, and you can't win with Trae Young. He might be a superstar. He might be fun. He might put up points, but ultimately you're not going to win a championship if you're one of your major players and $50 million of your salary cap is going to Trae Young. So kudos to the Charlotte Hornets for like swallowing a pretty tough pill and trading away essentially what is their franchise player for a first-round draft pick, some second-round draft picks, and Naz Reid. They've created a bunch of cap space for themselves. I think they now have a $40 million traded player exception. So what happens is that in certain situations where you're able to, and this is difficult to do with a salary cap, often in the off season or something happens where you can make a trade where you're not taking back as much salary as you're giving or whatever. So in this trade, they created a $40 million traded player exception, which means they can now trade zero, like they can take $40 million in for nothing in just draft picks. So say like Toronto decides tomorrow they want to trade Brandon Ingram. I believe Charlotte could absorb the entirety of Brandon Ingram's contract into a traded player exception. And like, say we were like, we just want to save $40 million. They don't even have to trade us anything. We could just go, here's Brandon Ingram, have him. Like he's yours now. We'll say now we have a $40 million traded player exception. So that's like a very valuable thing to have on top of the draft picks they got for LaMelo Ball or Ball, and they've re-signed Kobe White. They're in a great position. They took they did what the Raptors should be doing, which is taking a slight strategic step back. I think that there's a few teams. I think Indiana Pacers, who made the championship 2 years ago. Tyrese Halliburton gets injured. They basically had to take like an off year last year. They're going to come back and be ready to go. They got Zubac, Siakam, Naismith, Nembhard, and Halliburton. They'll fill out the bench however they need to. That team's ready to be back at the top of the East. Like the Raptors finished 5th in the East last year. They need to go ahead and just not make the playoffs again. Like they got to take this year and go, this team is not set up correctly. We're not built to be a winner. Let's like take a minute, evaluate what it is here that we need to keep, and maybe jettison something off. I mean, I've never been a Brandon Ingram guy. I know that people are going to like have an infatuation with him in this town because we went from being a pretty bad team to making a playoff run last year, and people are going to credit Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram is one of my he's one of these guys you have to trade if you want to be a successful team. He can't be eating $40 million of your salary cap up on Brandon Ingram. You just can't. He's fool's gold. Now, if he had an Andrew Wiggins career renaissance where the league finally decided, you know what, Brandon Ingram isn't worth $40 million. Yes, he can score. Yes, he's long. At the end of the shot clock, maybe he's a decent player to have. But you can't be giving this much of your salary cap to Brandon Ingram. You just won't win. The rest of the league figured that out last year. Unfortunately, the Raptors didn't get that memo. The Raptors, ironically, in that trade, yes, they traded my favorite, Kelly Olynyk, and Bruce Brown, who is a quality basketball player. But those were contracts. That was fine. We also traded the Indiana first-round draft pick that we got in the Pascal Siakam deal, which... Then Tyrese Halliburton injures himself in Game 7. He's out the entirety of this basketball year. That draft pick ends up being the 5th pick in the fucking draft. So the Toronto Raptors could have been sitting on the 5th pick in the draft this year for Brandon Ingram. And everybody wants to kind of wash that trade away because we made the playoffs and we got better. Brandon Ingram is not worth the 5th pick in this draft. The 5th pick in this draft was almost worth getting Jaylen Brown. I mean, if we had the 5th pick in this draft, I'd be looking at our team going, not, draft a young guy to go and we'll develop. I'd be going, that trade chip's better than anything we have short of Scotty Barnes. So that was a disaster, that trade. And we will be like trying to work ourselves out of that for a long time. It is not Jakob Poeltl's fault. It is not Immanuel Quickley. I want Raptors fans to understand your Immanuel Quickley fears are wrong. Yes, $32 million is a fairly substantial contract for him, but if you actually look at what Immanuel Quickley's value would be around the rest of the league, he's maybe overpaid by like $6 million. He's cost you a bench player. It's not the end of the world. Brandon Ingram means you can't win. Like Immanuel Quickley doesn't mean you can't win. Could you win a championship paying Immanuel Quickley $32 million a year? Yes. Can you win a championship paying Jakob Poeltl $19 million a year? Yes. Can you win a championship playing RJ Barrett $29 million a year? It's not a great call, but yes. You can do all those things. What you can't do is win a championship paying Brandon Ingram $40 million a year. So that's where it has to go. I would have loved to have just bit the bullet this year. And what you do is you go, hey, listen, so the Washington Wizards have been a terrible team for a while now. But this last year, they traded for Trae Young. They traded for Anthony Davis. Nobody really fully understands it. Are we good?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I do my double checks every once in a
I
while.
appreciate it. Just sometimes you look panicked and I...
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'll start doing it like this.
Hey, wow. Yeah. So they get a couple of veterans that like have some value in there along with their young guys, and they end up with the first overall pick in this draft, AJ DeBanza, who I don't have superstar on AJ DeBanza. I think he was going to be one of those guys that's a very solid, we'll call him Scottie Pippen.
Sure.
If that is whatever. He's going to do a lot of things that are very valuable, but you're going to need an A guy to go along with him ultimately for you to be a championship team. Number 2 was Darren Peterson to Utah. So let me go through some of these teams quick. How long have I done?
I think we're at 40.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. So let me just go through some of these lottery teams and just to put a thing on the LaMelo Ball trade. Winners and losers of that trade. Charlotte is the huge winner of that trade. Getting off LaMelo Ball's contract. And this isn't just about the fit in Minnesota. Minnesota are huge losers in his trade for multiple reasons. But Charlotte's the winner purely for the money. The first round draft picks, whatever, great. It's not like they got a huge haul for LaMelo Ball, but what they showed was they make good decisions. They made a very tough decision like very early on that a lot of other teams wouldn't have made ultimately, and that shows like a level of intelligence that their franchise has that other franchises don't. From Minnesota's side, I think having LaMelo Ball next to Anthony Edwards is sort of silly. I don't really fully get it. I think they re-signed Ayo Dosunmu, who would have been a perfectly good partner next. I think they're doing a pivot that I would suggest a lot of teams do, but I don't like the way they did it, if that makes sense. I think that a lot of teams saw Victor Wembanyama come into the league and went, we need to get bigger because somehow we need to beat that guy, and that guy's going to dominate us if we don't get more size. And I think that that's a silly way of running your franchise. I think the reason that we constantly see this changeover in the NBA, where if you look at like the Golden State, small ball, 5 out, 3-point shooting, basketball,
perimeter play,
and then Oklahoma City went to this less 3-point shooting, more defensive guard, more transition, speed thing, and we all went there. Then the Pacers almost beat that team by doing this. We're going to press the whole game. Our guards are going to meet your guards all the way down the court. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep fucking pressuring you, and we'll have one extra guard that we trust so that somebody can stay with enough energy to be able to do a full court press the entire time. Now, I think the pivot, everyone wants to now go with these 2 bigs because they want to factor in Victor. The move is not that. The move is big guards. You can't beat the size down up front. Victor is 7'6". You ain't going to find a guy talented enough to play against him at 7'6". So what did the Knicks do to defeat him? They had Karl Anthony Towns drag him away from the basket. Karl Anthony Towns is the best 3-point shooting big man in the history of the league. You can say a lot of other negative shit about him. Mm-hmm. This year, he finally quieted a lot of that negative shit by winning a championship, but he makes dumb fouls. He maybe isn't exactly the greatest defensive player that you could possibly ask for, but if you have a weakness like this guy is not a particularly good defensive player, what you have to do is you have got to drag that guy away from the fucking basket where he can, in fact, impact a game the same way. So Karl Anthony Towns effectively was a very good defensive player because on offense, he took Victor away. That's a form of defense in a way. It was like an offensive defense. If I can drag the guy who blocks everything away from where he can block shit, I have mitigated his usefulness, right? So I don't think the way to beat the Wembanyamas going forward has anything to do with size. I think it has to do with speed and a guy who can cover him just enough. Like, I remember watching, to go back to those 2019 Raptors. Mm-hmm. If you look at who guarded Joel Embiid for the most part in that playoff series, it was Kyle Lowry. Because Kyle Lowry, while he couldn't stop him under the basket, he could take charges and he could strip the ball. And that's why we had Kyle Lowry playing on Joel Embiid for the most part. We didn't use Marc Gasol. We used Marc Gasol a bit on him. We would body him up early in games, but by the fourth quarter, pretty much it was Kyle Lowry defending Joel Embiid. That's what you're going to need in the forward. You know who I trust? Who I think going forward is the number one defender I would pick to guard Victor Wembanyama? Scotty Barnes, especially Scotty Barnes with a better three-point shot that could drag him off the line with more consistency and be a little bit more of a threat from the line. Scotty Barnes is the type of guy who you need to guard Victor Wembanyama. Don't just get some fucking 7'3" slug out there to go, oh, he's big. Isn't he big? Look how big he is. That's stupid. You need to do something else. So having big-ass guards, I get it. I think that's the move. I think that's very smart on Minnesota's part. It's just a poor allocation to assets. That's all. Like, you've now have all the three major assets you have are two guards and Rudy Gobert, who's a wonderful defensive center, but he has to get out of basketball games at the end of them because he can't stay in. Like, he's too clumsy, he can't play on offense, and he just gets hacked. They do a hack-a-shack to Rudy, and then he can't shoot, whatever, right? So it's just like, it's poor asset management on Minnesota's part, and now they have no assets to kind of fix the problem, ultimately. Let me go through the draft really quickly, because this is going to be almost another full-hour fucking podcast.
Yep.
So I love what Washington did ultimately with that draft pick. I think they're in a situation where you just go with the safe thing and you get the Bansa. I think they have a solid team. I think they maybe have a playoff team. I look at the Washington Wizards, and that's why I think of the Raptors and go strategically move backwards a bit. It's okay if the Washington Wizards are better than you next year. I would actually just do that. Don't be the worst team. Don't go all the way back. But I think just a little subtle backwards. Utah, same thing. The first and second worst teams in the league both did a similar thing. Utah last year traded for Triple J, Jared Jackson Jr., who is a great player on a team. So a bad team traded for a good player, which is very unusual. But now they've got Lauri Markkanen, a good player, Triple J, a good player. If they re-sign Walker Kessler, which they maybe aren't able to do, but even if they can't re-sign him, they'll be able to sign and trade him for something valuable. They've been able to draft Darren Peterson with the second overall pick. They have Keontae George. They have Ace Bailey from last year. So now Utah's another team that looks dangerous now. I like the roster construction of Utah. They don't have just two 7-foot guys, but they've got size all up the lineup now. Like, they took the middle of the lineup and went, let's let Lauri Markkanen be a 7-foot small forward. That's smart. The third team, Memphis. Memphis is just a well-run franchise. They're in a very smart rebuild right now. They've got a bucket of draft picks. They've got Cedric Coward, who they picked last year, who's going to be very good. They picked Cam Boozer, who's going to be very good. They're going to be gone for a couple of years, but they're going to be just fine. They're well on their way. They've got to trade Ja Morant at some point, but Ja Morant's another one of these guys. He's worthless. Like, Ja's just done. His knees he doesn't have any lift anymore. Like, some team is going to make a stupid decision to pay too much for Ja Morant this offseason, and Memphis is going to, again, be the beneficiary of a fantastic trade. The Bulls got Caleb Wilson at number 4. Again, and all these guys just doing exactly what they were supposed to. Like, this is the guy at 4. Next at number 5 was the Clippers, who they got the Indiana draft pick from the Zubac trade. They picked Keaton Wagler. Keaton Wagler, right choice there. They're going to probably have to trade Kawhi Leonard. You want to know something fun? Kawhi Leonard is rumored to come back to Toronto right now.
I know. I heard about.
I
heard about that. Yeah.
Ultimately, if we could do it for Brandon Ingram, I'm all for it. I have no issues with it at all. To be complete, because I think they might take a problem off our hands in exchange for a problem again. Mm-hmm. Brandon Ingram becomes the DeMar DeRozan of this particular trade, where we kind of knew it wasn't right, but he was good enough for the team to go, it's something. Then we kind of fleece him on it a little bit. But so the Bulls do the right thing. They can put Buzelis with him. The Clippers at 5 get Wagler, who they can put next to Garland. Not that they needed to not pick a point guard on behalf of Darius Garland, but I think that they did the right thing to fit with. A lot of people think they should have drafted Acuff. I like Wagler's game quite a bit. At number 6, Brooklyn took Mikal Brown. I've quietly been a Mikal Brown guy the entire time. I could be very wrong on this one. Mikal Brown's like either going to be amazing or terrible. He's one of those guys, boom or bust. But that's what the Nets needed. The Nets needed a boom or bust. So I think the Nets did exactly what they should in that moment. Either they continued to suck dick because Mikal Brown was a mistake, or Mikal Brown was who they think he is, and now they have a franchise player going forward. At 7, Sacramento very happy to get Darius Acuff, and they can actually start the first piece of a rebuild. For those, that franchise needs to just be moved. I don't know why they're in Sacramento still. We don't need to add Los Angeles and Seattle in expansion. They could literally just move Memphis to Nashville, move New Orleans to Seattle, and move whatever I just said, Sacramento to Vegas, and we're fine. There's enough teams that don't need teams. Sacramento doesn't need a team anymore. But they got Darius Acuff. At 8, who is everybody? Hold on.
I don't know.
Oh, the show.
Yeah,
we got to
end
in
in
a second. Darius Acuff, we got a number 8. You know what? That's good enough. We'll see what people respond to this, and we'll continue. Quick Raptors thing just at the end. I think this is going to be kind of a boring offseason for us. There's a chance Barrett gets traded, but I almost think that they're just not going to out of the sentimentality of it. I think the best you get is we attach a draft pick to Grady Dick to grab us a backup center. My hope is that maybe a Ryan Nembhard is signed as I think he's a point guard that could be good. But yeah, past that, holy shit, there's a lot of people here for this show already, so I should probably stop this. Let me know if you guys like this. And if you have any arguments about any of that, please feel free to message me at Rob Loves Arguing. Have a good one. Goodbye, guys.